Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of Empowerment TV. I am super duper excited for our next guest. I know I say that all the time, but I am. So if you don't know, I am Janelle Jones. I am a certified coach, a licensed clinical therapist, an author, and a TEDx speaker. And I love bringing women on the show and sometimes men to give us insight to really help us in bringing in our true authenticity, our power, and our purpose. So today we're going to welcome Leanna Jabs, and I'm going to tell you all about her because she does some amazing work with women. Like, I'm very just impressed with the things that she does. So y'all want to make sure y'all grab your pens and paper and really listen. I think this is going to be amazing for you to really understand. So we're going to talk about reclaiming your value, empowering women through self-work. So I'm going to tell you more about Leanna. So Liana Jabs of Love with Leanna, so make sure you follow her, is a master self-worth coach who guides her clients through their own self-discovery journey so that they may learn they are worthy of love, respect, peace, fulfillment, and abundance in their life. This is why I'm getting so excited. Okay. She is certified in neuro-linguistics programming, emotional freedom techniques, Reiki, clinical hypnotherapy, time techniques through the International Neuroenergetics Association and the Adult Chair. When not looking to build a more present and loving world, Leanna could be found snuggled up with her husband and her 2 cats. So this is amazing. So I'm excited because I know that you have, like, one of the things I love about you is that you do this purposefully. So I really like just love all that you do. And I know you're going to share your story because that is so powerful as to why you got into, coaching women and or coaching people with like mastering their self-worth. So we're going to get really started into reclaiming your value and empowering women through self-worth. So welcome, Leanna.
Hi, Janelle. Thank you so much for having me.
You're so welcome. I just talking to you, and I know that you're going to provide some powerful information. So I'm very excited. So let's get started. Like, talk to us about your journey of self-worth.
Absolutely. So I am a 28-year-old woman who really stepped into her own in my Saturn return year, which was 27-ish, 28. And I feel like I really know who I am at this point. And I feel like many maybe 20 somethings are in that frame of mind where they're like, I'm just trying to figure out who I am. I don't really know what I like and dislike. And my brain is changing and developing and growing and fully forming. So I'm changing myself. And I now feel like I know who I am. And it took me a long time to get here because I endured some trauma through my family when they rejected my engagement to my now husband back in 2017. That's a big part of my story because even though they were supportive of me throughout my whole life, it was only when I was compliant to what they wanted me to be doing. So the moment that I stepped away from doing the cookie cutter things that they wanted me to do, I lost myself. I lost myself through their eyes, and I didn't know who I was because they rejected such a big part of me. What I found when I was actually looking for my own sense of self in college, and I then met my now husband in school, and we just connected, and I had this divine download that he was my person, and it was a beautiful experience. So for them to reject that just didn't make any sense to me. And they wanted him to be more of a Wall Street guy, the provider, the man of the house type of thing. But I didn't want that. So I wanted an equal partner. I wanted someone who would uplift me, and he does that. So it took a long time for all of us to get on the same page in being a family and having love with one another. I now define our relationship between me and my parents as kind of indifferent. And that's just sad, but that's like a whole other story. But nevertheless, this part of reclaiming myself really came to fruition when I was knocked down so badly, and I had to pick up the pieces and then rebuild like an entirely new puzzle. That was what I was doing. And I found the adult chair model back in 2018, February, so the beginning of the year. So it was a year after the incident of the rejection. And I was just desperate to find something to heal me, to feel better, to dig deep into myself. And I found this model, which is a simple psychology, grounded spirituality model for healthy living. And I dove headfirst into that model, listened to all of her podcasts, the Adult Chair podcast, and I fell in love with the model. So much so that in 2020, 2 years later, she announced a coaching certification before the pandemic happened, like that January. And then the pandemic happened, obviously. And I was like, could I do this? And I looked to my husband and he goes, why don't you take out a loan and see what happens? So I was like, okay. So I become this self-worth coach through this model. I then become a master self-worth coach in all the things that you mentioned, NLP, EFT, the neurolinguistic programming, the emotional freedom techniques, all the neuroenergetics and stuff like that. I'm a Reiki master. And I now coin myself as a master self-worth coach because I really believe that my story is what drove me to this work, because I was in the depths. I was feeling suicidal. I was feeling all the depression and anxiety you could ever imagine. And I needed some way to feel like I could live again, and finding my self-worth, finding what makes me feel happy and alive, that belief that I deserve love, respect, peace, fulfillment, and abundance, like all of that is where I stand now in this empowered place. So thank you for asking about my story. That's a bit about me.
That was a lot. I know you said a bit about you, but that's really a lot. Like to go from really, I am so glad that you were open and vulnerable enough to share your story and your pains. Like that was very like a lot to come from that space of, being with your parents and going to college and kind of like having your identity with them, and then discovering your husband, like you said, who you felt like was the one, and then sharing him with your family, and then to kind of have that rejection, and then kind of almost like, I would have to imagine, and you can let me know, that disconnect of who you are, because at some point that's where you got your identity from, and and then now you're like rejected, and you're kind of like, I would have to feel like a loss, like, okay, what does this mean now that you're not accepting this part of me?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And then for you to get into, I love that you dove into mental health, because a lot of people don't touch on the mental health aspect of going through all that, feeling suicidal and depression and anxious. And I know like you talk a lot like on your stories, like about like anxiety and things like that. So I appreciate you being very open about your mental health part of going through this, because I don't think people understand like the impact that it has of just like this identity crisis.
Yep. Yeah, totally. It was a rude awakening. It really was. It was this shock where, talk about downloads coming from above. This was like a rise up from hell, I guess. And it just rose up within me, and it just took me over. I really didn't identify with so much anxiety until after that event. I think I was probably always destined to have anxiety because of brain chemicals and other things like that. But nevertheless, I didn't identify as that type of person, especially someone who didn't want to be around anymore. That was unheard of when I was a child. That was unheard of when I was a teenager. I may have had some moments of darkness, but really never to that extent. So for me to feel that way was just totally a shock. And I think a lot of that was due to the fact that I didn't really know who I was. I was overworking myself. I had literally, it was all simultaneous. From the rejection, I then got a job in another state away from my family. And I was living alone before my husband could move in with me. And I was just alone with myself. And I was just like, I don't even know what to do. I was just filling my day with TV after work. And I didn't have any enjoyment in my life, really. I had worked so hard to get that job after college, and then I finally got there, and I was like, okay, this is it now. Like, now what do I do?
Mhm.
So I really began to go on a self-discovery journey and learned how to love myself. And in doing so, I learned key pillar things that I now teach other people about on social media, online, in person, however I can. And it's that you have high self-worth when you believe you deserve love, respect, peace, fulfillment, and abundance.
Mhm.
That you unconditionally love who you are, you speak up for yourself, and you self-validate. Those are the pillars of the self-worth. And I had to do that for myself. I had to advocate for what I wanted and needed. I had to own what I wanted and needed first before I could then ask for it or call somebody out when they were not being that way towards me. And then
Yeah.
I had to correct them or set a boundary or something like that. Like I learned so much. And then I eventually came to this place of self-love where I've completely changed my look. I feel like I look so much different and healthier because I've worked on this inner part of me.
Mhm.
And I also supplement with medication and everything. And I think both of those, along with therapy and coaching and, all of that combined, is a recipe for success to feel amazing and worthy and loved in this life. So that's really where I stand.
I love it. My question is though, did you know that you didn't love yourself? Like when you were like under your parents' wings, let's say, did you realize like you were not loving yourself? Or when did you have this aha moment of, you know what, I don't really truly love me?
Mm. So in doing the self-discovery work, I worked a lot with my inner child. And when I would have visions of her, I would see her like crying with a bunch of like broken toys or like markers all over the floor or like paint splattered, like there would be some sort of mess in front of her, and she'd just be crying and feel like, oh my gosh, I can't do it. I don't feel like enough. I don't feel worthy. I don't feel happy. And so when she would be telling me those messages, that was like a smack in the face of like, oh my gosh, I don't feel like I'm enough. I don't feel like I'm worthy. It's to the point where I literally have to have now, I have these mantra coins on my desk that say I am worthy and
Mhm.
I am enough. And I have signs in my bedroom. I even have a little plaque on my desk also that says it's okay to ask for help.
Oh,
Like,
okay.
I have all these little daily reminders that I look towards, and it's to help me consciously remember that I am worthy, that I am enough because of that wounding. I think I was asleep to it when I was a child and a teenager. I don't think I was aware because I had all my other basic needs met. My parents, as traumatizing as that one experience was, they did give me a beautiful life as a child and as an early adult. And that really helped me become who I am today, a driven individual, a hard worker in the corporate world and everything. But at the end of the day, it still wasn't enough to really make me feel fulfilled and give me that sense of self-love, because I now recognize, being a coach and being someone who has studied all the things, I can acknowledge that they don't have the emotional intelligence that I would have needed when I was a kid. I did develop secure attachment with them, so that's a beautiful thing, but they didn't give me the emotional support that I needed, that my husband now does, that I now give to myself. And I check in with who I am. I check in with my emotions. I make sure that I'm keeping myself in check and that I know where to go from here. And it's a really nice thing that I got this far. But it was difficult in those days when I felt like for the first time that I didn't love myself. I mean, I'd work with coaches and mentors and I would just cry to them and be like, I don't know who I am. And then they're like, you're going to figure it out. And it's like, okay, I trust you. So having that support is really important. And I credit a lot of that and just my continuous drive to find the answer of how can I love myself? That really is the key to now where I am today.
This is so powerful because I could just see so many, not only little girls, but young teenage girls, young adults, just in the same vein where they really don't understand like self-love and what that means. But the power of you seeing your inner child broken constantly was just like, you know what, I need to heal her. And I'm in this okay, it's like EMDR, it's trauma training basically. So I'm like doing this trauma training. And I'm gonna have to be honest, I thought I knew trauma because of my own experience, if that makes sense. Like I have my own experience. I mean, I know I shared things with you about my own trauma, and I thought, okay, I'm a trauma certified coach. I mean, I'm not that, but in therapy, I'm like, I can teach people about trauma because I have my own trauma. And so I decided to take this class, and I am like, I'm floored with the impact of trauma, not just on our lives, but our bodies and our minds, like how it's stored. Like I am just kind of like in awe. So I'm like, okay, I knew nothing about trauma outside of like going through it. So it's very like powerful for you to identify and then work your way. Cause I think people just think it's okay. I know there's some dysfunction, then they just keep it moving. But for you to take a step back and really do your self-discovery journey and then going back to help people is so profound to me.
Thank you. Thank you. Yeah, I never would have thought that I would have ended up here, truly, especially in those deep, dark moments where I just didn't feel like I wanted to be on this earth anymore. Like I didn't think that one day I would make it through and then be inspired to want to help others. I didn't think it would lead me this way, but the truth is it became my passion. It became my duty, essentially, because I feel like now that I'm aware of so many different layers, that I can use that for the greater good. Because if I was struggling, there's so many other people struggling out there that especially need someone to relate to. Because I didn't have very many people that I could relate to back then. I had the community of the adult chair in Facebook groups where I would write and just tell them how I was feeling and ask for advice and get support from random strangers. But that never felt like enough because they weren't like my neighbor or somebody or a friend or somebody that I could see and hug and really collaborate with in a way of healing. So I had to really take myself through that journey, and it was a long one. It took years, and I really feel like in the last year or two it's come to a head of just pure happiness, of bliss. And not that I'm happy all the time. I definitely have my down moments. I definitely have my sad times, but they're way less frequent than they used to be. And I'm very grateful.
Yeah, I love that. And one of the things that I really, really love about you and what you do is kind of like you define self-worth, but you also have an umbrella of what self-worth is. So I would love for you to share with the audience kind of this umbrella of, okay, here's self-worth, but here's everything that goes under that.
Sure. So, like I said before, it's when you believe you deserve love, respect, peace, fulfillment, and abundance. So when you believe you deserve love, that means that you feel like you deserve to treat yourself with kindness and that you expect kindness from others in return. And you set a boundary or you remove yourself from the relationship if you don't get that love in return. Now, it may not always be a romantic love, but a love in terms of kindness and compassion. That's what I mean. And then peace. You deserve peace when you feel like you can take a break and it's not going to be the end of the world. Like if you need to take a mental health day, you give yourself that. If you need to say no to plans or say no to somebody, you give yourself compassion and you each of these build on each other. So you give yourself love to then honor the peace that needs to come. You give yourself those mindful breaks and you allow the peaceful energy to just wash over you, and you give yourself that self-care. Like that's what I mean. Love, respect, peace. So I respect. So respect is in line with that. When you give yourself the respect that you would give others, you expect that from other people to give to you. That's what that means. Fulfillment. You give yourself the opportunity to live out a life of passion in whatever capacity you can. It may not always be realistic for every single one of us to work in a job that is our passion. Sometimes we have two different passions, like an intellectual passion and a personal passion. So we do the intellectual passion in the workplace, and then we do our personal passion on the side, or maybe we're trying to build that up in our own business or something like that. But we try to give ourselves that area of, let me just have fun for a moment. And like they all build on each other, because that piece could also be something that fulfills you and that gives you a sense of calm. Like I also love to play video games, and I've been very into the Zelda Tears of the Kingdom on Nintendo Switch. If anyone's a fan, I love that game. And I just get lost in that world, and I let myself do that. I don't feel guilty that I'm like, oh, I should be cleaning the house or I should be doing something else. I let that fulfill me, and it's a beautiful thing. So love, respect, peace, fulfillment, and abundance. Abundance is that manifestation of you deserve to get paid what you know would serve you in your skill set, in your time of your life, your age, like everything. You're a woman, like, you get the fair payment. Like that's the physical abundance, but then the abundance also all around you of gratitude, of love and happiness and joy, and just so much, and family and connection and compassion. All of that is just so beautiful. So you give yourself that abundance, you welcome it in, you expect it to happen, you don't look for the downsides as often. You acknowledge when there are down moments and maybe a lack of abundance in the moment, but you know that abundance is coming your way. So you put investments into yourself. You hire that coach that you see online that you're like, I want to work with this person because I want to put that back into myself. Like I did that multiple times over. I invested in various coaches and mentors and programs and things like that. And no one can take that away from you. That knowledge, that knowing that you then get from all of those beautiful things. So that's those 5 areas. But then also when you speak up for yourself. So when you speak up for yourself, that kind of says, or speaks for itself, I should say. But it really is getting to know your wants and needs and advocating for them, for literally going up to your boss. Like, I don't know if anyone was in the New York area a week or two ago, when by the time we record this, I'm not sure exactly the dates, but there was like the fires from Canada were coming down, and the sky was like a yellow. And I was just like, should we be working from home? Like, and I spoke up to my boss, and I literally asked, I was like, should we not be working in the office this week? Because it's just it doesn't feel safe out there. And so my boss then looked into it and got back to me with HR, and they wrote a message, and they were like, we're cognizant and aware of this. Like, I feel like because I said something, like there was some steps in motion. And that's just a very basic example of me taking care of myself. But I know so many people that wouldn't have even done that because they'd be afraid to speak up to their boss of any potential repercussions or anything like that. I neglected to mention also that in addition to my coaching, I do a different corporate job. So I'm doing everything simultaneous. So that's why I'm mentioning that kind of area of my life. Okay, so when you speak up for yourself and then you self-validate. Self-validate means that you look into yourself and you acknowledge what you're feeling. You connect with that inner child and you look to her, however she's presenting. Like for me, a lot of the times she'd have those toys or paint splattered all over the floor, or just like crafts like everywhere, like a mess in front of her, and just be crying and not know what to do, and feel like, stuff was broken, and that she couldn't fix it and all that. And it's just acknowledging that, like, yes, I feel this way. This is a temporary thing. I'm going to help her, in the inner child example, I'm going to help her feel like she can take care of herself, that she is cared for, and that she's not alone.
Mhm.
And also just recognizing when you need a break, when you need to cry it out, and you need to watch a movie that's just going to let you cry, like that, you just feel that, you validate those emotions. Another way that we self-validate is we don't ask for other people's opinions. We, like, I was not sure if what I was wearing was going to be nice enough for this interview, and I was just like, but I looked in the mirror before I got here, and I'm like, no, I look damn good. Like, like, let's go, I feel beautiful. And that, I don't need an opinion. I didn't even ask my husband, like, oh, do I look okay? Like I just like looked at myself, and I'm like, no, I can do this. Like, that's a huge act of self-worth, when we don't need to ask someone else's opinion of who we are. We just show up authentically, and we let that be the truth. So speak up for ourselves, self-validate, and unconditionally love who we are. That's that last pillar of everything, in addition to the love, respect, peace, fulfillment, abundance. So this unconditional self-love, I define unconditional self-love as loving yourself without conditions.
Mhm.
So it sounds obvious, but hear me out. Without conditions, meaning that there's nothing you need to do, nothing you need to be, in order to be worthy of anything that you desire. It's innate, it's truth. You deserve to be loved, you deserve to feel worthy and enough, just because you exist. There's nothing you need to do. And that was very hard for me, because I was raised to be very driven and focus on achievements. Like, I used to think I was an Enneagram, I think 3, the achiever. I am a close 3. When I tested myself, I'm the helper. Like, that's my main Enneagram type, but I'm also a close achiever. So I'm a 2 with, like, I guess a 3 wing or something. And that really became my identity, where I needed to constantly be doing something to feel worthy. And sometimes I still catch myself doing that. Like this weekend, I really needed to rest on Saturday, and I felt guilty for that. And I was like, but I need to be cleaning and doing things. So Sunday, me and my husband did some cleaning around the house, and then we relaxed. And I felt so good after that. But then I looked at myself, and I'm like, did I really need this to feel enough in my own home? I guess I needed it in this moment, but let me backtrack and check that next time, so that I don't actually need to do that to feel enough and worthy, because we are worthy just because we exist. And we live in a society, unfortunately, that really promotes us to want to keep doing. It's that capitalism, it's that need to make money, and that we literally need to make money to survive, like to buy water and pay for electricity and toilet paper and everything like that. Like, it's sad, but that's where we are. And I think a lot of us are feeling the stress of that, and that it's not going to, I don't know, at least that's the side of TikTok that I'm on. People are starting to recognize that, like, this isn't working. There needs to be another way to live.
Yeah.
And it's becoming apparent that we will get to live in a new way going forward. And that's my biggest dream, where I can work for myself and help other people learn to love themselves, feel happy about their life, and even pick themselves up when they're sad. So that's all the layers of self-worth that I like to teach and give to my clients, my family, friends, like anybody that I can talk to. I give this advice to. I speak from my heart about it, because it's that empath nature in me that I am this light being that I felt like I've always been. It just makes sense that I'm at this point of spirituality, of self-growth, self-worth, self-love. Because all my life I was always into like crystals and magic and all the things. So now that I get to do that from a place of I am certified in that kind of stuff, it's fun and exciting, and it's a beautiful thing, and I love it. I love who I
And you
am.
can you have such a sense of like peace and calmness. That it's like it's just it makes me feel like, oh, I just want to relax and just like, it really makes you think. I love how you broke down like the unconditional love, because I don't like I see so many people, I'm sure you can contest to this. This is why you teach people this, where we promote self-love. And I know that's like the self-love kind of was a thing. I think maybe within the last 5 years, it has become very like trendy.
Mhm.
But are people really understanding unconditional self-love? Like, you say that you love yourself, but and yet you treat yourself X, Y, and Z. So is that really, love? So a lot of people are on the like self-love boat,
Mhm.
but they're not really practicing it when it comes to their everyday lives. Like they're over, like you said, it's like performance driven. Like if I grew up in a family that's performance driven, I feel like if I don't perform X, then I'm not worthy of Y, right? And so it's very, very good that you're bringing it down to like the fun. I'm like enjoying this because it's like, oh, I'm seeing also, I see my inner child. I'm like seeing all kind of stuff during this interview that is like, this is very enlightening, that we're just like living life almost and really not like defining those moments that can make us like really who we were created to be. Even the thought of, hey, I'm coming on here, I don't care what you think of me. I'm showing up as my authentic self. This is who I am. I don't have to pretend, or I don't have to go out of my way to try to be something that I am not, because that's not even the energy. That won't give you good energy to do that. So
Mhm.
I'm just very impressed. Make sure you guys follow her, because I seriously think that we're in a crisis. Like, I don't know. It's just a lot of things that's going on in the world.
Yeah.
Um, a lot of trauma. I think COVID really did a number on us.
Mhm.
But I think that if we can go and follow these things that you have provided for us, that it can help us really get back to ourselves and really go from there. So I just really appreciate your openness and sharing and some of the stuff you do in your program. So I would just appreciate your openness.
Thank you. Thank you.
You're welcome. So I want to talk about one of the things that you mentioned was talking about like the power of self-worth. So let's talk about its influence on manifestation, because you talked about, just the deserving part of manifestation. I was presented with an opportunity just to learn something different. And whatever it was an opportunity to learn something different where you can make great money.
Mhm.
And immediately I began to doubt it, if that makes sense, right? I begin to kind of like, okay, can I really make this much money? Is this all it takes? I really started to have these things in my head, but I know doing that propels manifestation. So
Mm.
talk to us about self-worth and its influence on manifestation.
Yeah. I think when you're in a place of high vibration, right? When you love yourself, when you're giving love out to others because you love yourself first, and you're just emitting this peaceful light energy, I believe that that comes back to you. I mean, that's the principle of law of attraction, right? Is that what is out there vibrating in the world will eventually vibrate back. And so when you're manifesting, you got to believe you deserve it first. And that's sometimes the hardest part. Like, for example, I am hosting my very first retreat in Bali this summer. Yes,
Yay.
July 30th through August 6th. I'm still accepting people to join if you're interested. You could click the link in my bio on my social media and book a call with me to see if you're interested in joining. But that whole process of even planning the retreat back in January. So this has been the whole year in the making of just acknowledging that I deserve to do this. I can do this, even though I'm scared, that no one will come, or that I'll have one person. And then even if I have one person, what do I do for that person? I'm now responsible for them to have a week of transformation. And if I don't deliver on that, then they don't get the money investment that they put towards this. So I had to go through so much resistance breakthrough, because there was so much to be said in that moment of deciding to book with the retreat center and putting that down payment and everything, that I just was like, I'm doing this for myself, but also for the greater good of the world. And that is scary. That is scary, because then you open yourself up to, the possibility of failure, of no one coming, or the possibility of putting a lot of money into something and not having a lot of savings left over because you're investing and paying. There's just so many variables, but luckily I have a good support system in myself, where I was like, I need to read the book, The War of Art by Stephen Pressfield. And I looked at that and I'm like, let me smash through all this resistance. And the moment that I gave in to the resistance, and by giving into the resistance, I don't mean like letting it win. I mean like letting me hear it as if it were a part of me, because it is a part of me, right? This resistance part. And it was saying to me, like, what if no one comes? Then I answer, okay, if no one comes, then I still go and I still make a retreat, like a self retreat or something. I make it, and I drag my husband to Bali with me, and we have an experience for ourselves. Okay, check. What if I only have one person? Okay, then I deliver the best experience for that one person. Okay, check. What if this becomes a waste of money or something? And then I go, but what if it's not? What if it's not? Like, so check. Like you just attack every point of the resistance to that thing that you're trying to manifest, that thing you're trying to bring into your world. And you look at it dead in the eye and you're like, I got an answer for every bit. So if one of those things ends up happening, you can be at peace with the fact that you've already thought this through. You've already made a plan. You already have an answer. So why not let the universe do the rest and bring it to you? So that's what manifestation in the eyes of self-worth really means to me. It's when you believe you deserve it and you talk yourself out of anything else that is not deserving.
Yeah, this is good. Yes. Well, I'm taking notes. I'm taking mental notes, because I'm thinking, there's like a lot of people, I know we kind of had the conversation there. They're like, I'm believing for X, Y, and Z. I want this to happen, but there's a gap between, what they are saying they want and the manifestation actually happening. And for me to say, well, the reason why, it's probably delayed, let's just say delayed, is because you don't believe you're worth it. You don't believe that you deserve whatever it is that you're doing. And so that is kind of like, if you don't believe that down to your core, that's really what you're believing, which is what is manifesting. But if you can face that head on, those resistance head on, however it will happen, it will happen. But if you just say, I deserve this. Okay, no one comes, I do this. If this happens, then this. But eventually it's really going to get you what you want if you push through the resistance and really know deep down, like deep down, that you're worth it.
Yeah, 100%.
That's good. That's really good. Like, y'all we're going to get you information. We're going to learn about Bali. We're going to learn about all this stuff so that, if you can identify and say, yes, we need this, and you can actually, you can show up because we need this. And this is one of the things that you keep saying is really, you say you reached out to coaches, that, you invested in yourself. And I think that is a highlight for this, because a lot of times we won't invest in ourselves. We will sit here and we will make excuses as to, what we're doing. And so the reality of it is, a coach or a mentor they help you get to where you need to be in a faster pace. They can 10x you were trying to do something in 10 years. It could take you 3 months of working with a coach just to get to where you are. So it's really important when we're looking at reclaiming our value, to really understand that your value is also in making investments in yourself, right? If you're looking to have a coach high end, you can't sit up here and say, well, I don't want to invest in a coach, high end because, it's not worth it. Then no one's going to invest in your coaching program. So it's kind of like, really get to the space of looking at it as an investment in you versus like having this mantra of being just getting by. Because just listen to you, I'm like, I want to go deeper, right? And I know that you do that with your students. So it's very important that my audience or the audience, whoever listens, understand that you have to go. The definition of insanity is if I always do what I've always done, then I'm always going to get what I always got. So if you're invested in yourself and get a coach or mentor, they will expedite your process.
Yeah.
So
I totally agree with that. I credit that a lot to my own success and just feeling better. And I don't think I would have gotten here if I had just tried to stick it out and wait for the feelings to change themselves. Like I needed somebody to be my mirror. I needed somebody who was in the place energetically that I wanted to get at. I needed to work with that person. And I did that over the course of last year. I did a 6-month coaching program and I loved every minute of it because each week we talked and we communicated, and it was just really in-depth work on shining the light on me and what I wanted for myself and focusing on who I wanted to become that. And that neuroenergetics, she's the coach that I then got master certified in all the things energetically. And so in working with her, I was able to just feel like I could breathe again. To put it bluntly and simply, is just I was lost in myself. And over the course of 6 months, I found who I was because I had just been messing around over the years. Like, yes, I was doing a lot of self-discovery and diving deep into the adult chair model. And I was in therapy and a lot of things like working with that. And that gave me a lot of awareness. But it was that one-on-one work with somebody who was in that place that I wanted to be at, that I could really see a change. And I know I'm going to deliver that at my retreat because I do currently have one person signed up. And I'm super excited to deliver this experience to her because, and I hope for more people to join, of course, but even like if the fears are right and it is one person, then okay, I can deliver what I would deliver in like a 6-month container in like a week, and we can have all that time to really heal and transform. And I hope that that's all I can do because and also at the end of the day, yeah, did I do every single coaching prompt that the coach gave me? No, but I did exactly what I needed to do. And that investment ended up being exactly what I needed it to be, which was perfect and beautiful.
Yeah, that's amazing. Well, we're just sending energy that more people will sign up. I'm noticing that like people do kind of wait. So we're just going to believe that, more people are going to just come and it's going to be an amazing experience. I do want to talk about when we're talking about self-worth, and you kind of mentioned about society views and perspectives earlier, but dive more deep into kind of like, how do you feel like society views kind of like mess with our impact or influence our self-worth as women?
Yeah, it is a tough road being a woman in today's society and in society in general over the decades and the years. And sometimes it also feels like even in our present that we're going backwards, and it's just really hard. So in order for us to cope with that, we need to first recognize it and understand that we have been in a society that historically hasn't valued women in the same way that they value men. okay, so now that I acknowledge that that has been true, how can I give myself value? How can I give myself the love and attention that I need? Because it's not going to come from the diet culture or the ads or the lose weight to get the man of your dream. Like, and that is also extremely heteronormative. Like there's there's so many spectrums of sexuality and gender identity, like everything that we can be today, especially as a woman. And it's our job to reclaim that as a feminine energy that we naturally put out, though there doesn't need to be even a level of femininity in order to be a woman, like it, but in our natural state, like that's where we come from. And I think that by putting the light on us, in pouring into our education, putting our money into ourselves, in our own businesses and our own work that we do, that's the way to make the realistic change. And that is what ripples out, because we then connect, like you and I are connecting. We connect with other women who are doing the same thing or who are aspiring to do the same thing. And then we can encourage and lift up each other. That's how we combat the societal pressures. And to speak back on like the diet culture thing for a moment too, I mean, we just are so, as women, pinpointed, to be a certain way, to look a certain way, to eat certain foods or deem certain foods as not good or bad and good for us or healthy or whatever. Like all of that stuff is just, it's so much of it is noise, especially for me. I now look at that as like pure noise of like, let me actually self-validate and look at myself and see, what do I actually want to put in my body today? What do I actually want to do today? And if that's going for a long walk, then I do that. I don't have a consistent structure, because so much of my work day or whatever is very structured. So I try to have my business and my femininity be more intuitive, more free flowing. And I love tapping into that. And that's why I think being in a container of women is so powerful and important, because we can relate so much to each other. I historically haven't had very many long-term female friendships, mainly, I don't even know why, just over the years, it's not worked out. But I think that's because I was aligned with the wrong types of women, with women who were more wrapped up in the societal pressures and the norms and the things, when I was so like questioning it of like, do I even want to do this? Do I like this? And the answer is no. Okay, then I don't do it. So, and I'm not going to align with those people. So it's really shining the light on us in what we want to do, acknowledging society's picture, but then looking at ourselves and saying, how do I want to show up instead? That's really the key to having self-worth in this society that expects so much of us.
And that's interesting that you said that, because when you said that, I immediately saw like, if you focus on aligning yourself versus like the trends that everyone is doing, I almost feel like that creates your path, that opens up so many more doors for you. Does that make sense? Like if I'm not super focused on, okay, this person is doing this, let me do that. This person does, let me do that. And then if I could just come up, being my authentic self and getting in line with who I am and what I'm supposed to do, gradually that begins to kind of open so much more than the trends that we are gravitating to because it looks nice. Like, does that make sense?
Yeah, 100%.
So how do you, I mean, you said a powerful word, which is aligned. Why is that important to be aligned?
Because you're in touch with your innermost guidance, your innermost wisdom. And that is your higher self. That is who you are from your healthiest version. That's that force that guides you. When you're aligned, you are in touch with that. That's where you get the downloads. Like I find that sometimes the downloads just come out of nowhere, but they mostly come when I'm aligned, when I'm doing the things that I most want to do and living that life of passion, of purpose, of fun, enjoyment, compassion, love, like all of the things and more. So
Mhm.
that is living an aligned life. And you're aligned when you're also connected to your self-worth, because I think that higher self is the guiding force. And you being the person who is just the transmitter of the divine above and the
Mhm.
earth below, like you are that conduit between both parts of the universe,
Mhm.
then you can be this beautiful light being and give that out to others in a world where there's so much hate and darkness and disarray.
Mm. And I think like one of the things with being aligned, it kind of shuts out, like how you had talked about noise, like because it's like if you're externally focused on, what's going on here, what's going on here, what's going on here, I feel like it distracts you from alignment,
Mm.
right? And then you're all of a sudden just that to me doesn't give you peace, like because then you're all over the place.
Right.
So, speaking of being in line, so what practices or mindset shifts can help cultivate kind of this sense of self-worth? Like, what's needed to get to that space?
So I think of it as needing all the tools in your toolbox. And then in the moments where you don't feel well, you
Mhm.
can pull them out. Like I'm able to, there's this way if you have an iPhone, I created this like triple tap. It's a shortcut on the iPhone. You go into like accessibility settings and it's like double tap or triple tap. I
Oh.
have this way to like I triple tap and I have a list that pops up of like easy things to do to feel better. Eat vegetables, use an anchor button, go outside and look at the nature, drink water, listen to music, hug my cats, hug my husband, have essential oils, call the friends and family who are really there for me, and
Mhm.
use like I have aromatherapy elixirs and other things like EFT tapping, like mindfulness breathing. I also there's a way you can double tap and it opens up the Calm app, the meditation app where I can
Mm.
just take a breath. Like I make those things at my disposal so that if I really don't feel good, I
Mhm.
can quickly shift my energy. And that helps so much. And it's to the point where because I've learned all this so much in so many deep, deep things, like it was literally over the course, all of 22 was like my learning year. And now that I'm in 2023, we're halfway through, I can look at it and go, wow, like I have so many tools at my disposal that my husband now has caught on to them. And he's like, why don't we do some tapping? Like,
Oh.
what if you can do that to feel better? And I'm like, okay, let's give it a try. Because like when you're spiraling and you're not feeling good, like you can forget. So it's like if you have that
Mhm.
habit of like, I can go into my phone and double tap or triple tap the back of it. If anyone needs a tutorial, like send me a message. Let me know.
Yes.
I can make another video or something about it because it's just so powerful to just easily do that. And you have those tools right there. You can remember what to do. And it helps shift and connect you back to self, because what happens is we're that hose of connection. And if we break or have a kink in the hose, we need to realign ourselves to get back into presence and love and peace and happiness. Like that is what brings us into that space. So I hope that helps.
Oh, it does. I mean, I've never heard of the double tap and triple tap on an iPhone. So it kind of gets you to where you want to be quicker. Because I can imagine spiraling out
Mhm.
and you're just in a flux, like you can't think. And so just to know, all you have to do is tap twice or tap three times, and it will give you some tools. That is absolutely amazing. So yes, please, we're gonna give the information in a minute for that. If you need a tutorial that you're able to get it. I just want to take time to say thank you. This has been such an amazing, this has been so powerful to really help women really with their self-worth, and it goes beyond self-worth. It really, you took a deep dive, and I know this is just a tad bit of what you do and what you offer. So you took a deeper dive in really some areas that we are not consistent in, that can really help us get momentum to be where we truly want to be, especially when it comes to alignment. So the next thing I want to do, if you want to share any last moments or any last sayings or anything important with our audience, that would be great about self-worth. And then we want to know more about you, Leanna, Leanna, where we can follow you. I'm still saying it wrong. Leanna, that's going to
No,
be
you're right. You're right.
okay,
You're right.
Leanna. So where we can follow you. I will also love like more information about your retreat, and then going from there.
Sure, absolutely. So the final words that I'll leave the viewers, listeners, love, light beings with is this phrase that I say to myself, and I say it online a lot, which is, you are enough simply because you are. You are worthy of this life simply by being in it, and you are so, so loved. Just because you exist, just because you are here on this earth. There's nothing you need to do, nothing you need to be in order to be worthy of anything that you desire. This is innate, and this is truth. That is the phrase that I love to leave people with, because if you can memorize that, if you can write it down and keep it in your heart space, you can come back to that. And whenever you feel down, whenever you feel like you're not enough, or that you just are not feeling life, you're like, no, I can do this. I am okay. I am worthy at the end of the day.
Yeah.
So where you can find me on social media is at Love with Leanna. Liana is my name. And I am posting on TikTok as often as I can, on Instagram as often as I can, connecting with everyone as best as possible. And I'm hosting my very first retreat in Bali, Embody True Self-Worth in Bali. That is July 30th through August 6th. You can click on the links in my social media bios to get to that page, to book a call with me to see if the retreat is right for you, and just connect and join the fun. I also have my website, lovewithleanna.com, that has my podcast. I like to sing, so I have music that, not original, but they're covers, but I have music that I've sung, podcast episodes that I've done. I have like 60 plus episodes. And am I forgetting anything? Oh, I've done a couple of meditations. So I have a lot of resources on my website and ways to connect with me there. So, but definitely reach out. My DMs are always open for whoever needs support and guidance. I'm always here for the world.
So everyone, I need you to really take the opportunity, like just go to her page right now, hit the button to follow her, and then you can learn so much more information just about everything that she's done. Like self-worth is such a great opportunity for you to grow, receive the things that you desire, know who you are. Like we can go deep down into just the peace and fulfillment, right? And unconditional love is super duper important, because I feel like there's a sense of freedom with all of those things. So it's really important to get aligned and in tune with who you are and know your worth. So thank you again. I so appreciate you being here. So audience, remember to continue to operate in your true authenticity, your power, and your purpose. Until next time, we'll see you then. Take care. Bye-bye.